Hello, lovelies. Welcome to another episode of Women's Wellness That Works Expert Series. And I'm really excited today because I have a very special guest who I've known for about the last 8 or 9 years through a mutual friend. We worked together in an essential oil company, and we've grown to know each other over the years. And I am so excited to share her with you because she has a wonderful book that she's going to share with you, but I really want to focus on who she is and what she has to offer to you and to the world. So welcome, Eileen, to Women's Wellness That Works.
Thank you, Anne. It's a pleasure to be here.
And tell everyone in our audience where you're at right now.
So right now, on so many levels, physically, on the physical plane, I'm on Long Island, about 25 miles east of Manhattan.
Yes, and I understand that. Are you in the process of moving?
We're putting our house on the market. I think it went up either yesterday or today.
Oh my, congratulations.
Thank you. It's been 39 years and we're moving back into Manhattan.
Oh my goodness. So a transition, a transformation. So what made you decide to, after 35 years, move back to Manhattan?
It's something I've wanted to do for a bunch of years, and now it's time. It's just time.
Good. Well, I'm excited to share all about you. But so our audience, our audience is primarily women. And the reason why I wanted you here on Women's Wellness That Works is because I've had a session with you, and I know a lot of also people that I'm acquainted with have had healing sessions with you. And they've said many wonderful things that they have learned from you, that you have allowed them to heal themselves. So why don't you share with everyone a little bit about your background?
Okay, so I was always into metaphysics. Don't even ask me how. Even as a young child, I was very, very spiritual little girl. I had all kinds of experiences at nighttime, looking out the window and having this experience of presence with me all the time. And I think that really carried me through my life quite a bit. When I went to college, I started to meditate. So I've been meditating for 50 years.
Wow.
And I've done all kinds of...
Were you practicing a certain type of meditation or...
At the beginning, so a bunch of us up in Syracuse University in New York State, we got the book Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. And that's by a famous Buddhist, Suzuki Roshi. He started the San Francisco Zen Center, Tassajara, and so on. And we would follow his suggestions. So we would sit there and do that kind of Buddhist meditation. And then over the years, I've done all kinds of meditations. So from Kabbalistic meditations to Hindu meditations, and following just, I can't think of the word, but where people guide you, imagery, all different kinds of imagery, which is lovely. And now I love doing yoga nidra and listening to somebody who does that, and is very relaxing. So I do all kinds of meditations all the time, and it's part of what I teach, and it's part of what I practice to keep myself in balance, because life ain't easy. That's for sure.
That's true. And so in your professional background, I know you mentioned numerous things that you have been certified in, that you've learned. What are some of those professional things that you've accomplished?
Yes. So I have my master's degree in counseling. So I'm a licensed mental health counselor here in New York State. But, after I got my degree and I was practicing, I felt like I needed more. So because I was meditating since I was 18 and all through college and graduate school, and I was involved in yoga at a very young age when first those yoga people were coming to the United States, I learned all kinds of energy healing. So I learned therapeutic touch down at NYU with Dolores Krieger, if any of you have heard of her. I learned EFT, which is about tapping
Yes.
on different points,
Mhm.
to calm us down and to help us transform different emotions. I've learned Reiki. I was a Reiki master for many, many years. I was a Gestalt therapist for many, many years. That's not energy healing, but that's a type of psychotherapy.
Okay.
And the big thing that I did about 25 years ago, 26 years ago, is I studied with my spiritual teacher, Jason Schulman, who created a Society of Souls, which is the School for Non-Dual Healing and Awakening. And I've been a teacher of his for about 20 years. So
So
that's
with
my,
all of this knowledge and experience, obviously for uh, many, many years, can you share exactly what non-dual healing is for our audience?
sure. Well, non-duality, I know it's a very in word, especially out in California where you are.
Yes.
So our understanding of non-duality is it's what the world already is. So there's the individual, and then there's the oneness. Everybody is interconnected. So we have to heal the ego, which tends to give us a sense of a separate self. And as we heal the ego, instead of getting rid of it, we can open up to all parts of ourselves, including the deeply spiritual parts of ourselves. That's pretty much what happens in non-dual healing.
And so that in addition to all of the things that you've learned, is there a specific program that you use for individuals, for clients, for coaches? Do you use all of the therapies that you've learned?
Everything is, at this point, at 68, everything's integrated into me. And mostly what I do, there's a profound way of being with people that I teach. And that's just a part of who I am at this point. I can't say it's just from the non-dual Kabbalistic healing. I can't say it's just from Gestalt therapy or even the energy healing. So I work with all different modalities. Oh, there's one that I forgot to mention that's really very cool. It's called Psyche, and that's based on healing our belief systems and works on the epigenetic level.
Interesting.
Really
Interesting.
cool stuff. Yep.
So here's what's, you're definitely a multi-healer. You have just so much vast knowledge and experience that you can share and use in your with your clients and those that you heal. Now, what led you to was there a life event or something that happened in your life that led you to spirituality and being a healer in health and wellness?
Honestly, I think it's just who I was born to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like I was involved in almost every night when I was little, having these spiritual experiences, looking out and knowing that I wasn't alone. And I loved going to, I was raised Jewish, so I loved going to temple with my father and hearing the prayers. I didn't love that it was mostly men, but I loved the energy of it. I felt like I was at home. There was something about prayer, something about being connected with lineage and the ancestors that just made me feel so happy and content and alive and not alone.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the biggest thing that we suffer from, feeling alone.
Absolutely. And so that connection maybe with source, with energy, allowed you to feel whole, complete, maybe.
Yeah.
And using that, your energy in healing others or maybe guiding others into their own completeness or wholeness and oneness. So you have worked with over how many years now has it been that you worked with thousands of people? Probably.
I graduated like 45. I graduated graduate school in 1977.
It's
a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about women, because, when I work with women, stress comes up, everyone is constantly multitasking. They just never have time for themselves. That's probably the number one complaint that most women have is, there's only 24 hours in a day, blah, blah, blah. What 3 to 5 tips would you give to women to help themselves manage maybe their health or well-being, or what tips can you give to women that they can start
Yeah.
with?
So one thing I've said a lot over the years is very related to the breathing that you've created, the course that you've created. And I would say, take 1 minute, either sit down in a chair, sit on the edge of the bed, and just 1 minute, just breathe and feel what that's like and be in touch with yourself. So that's something that I've recommended for a long time. Another thing is to be aware of any stress that you have and maybe just bring it into your heart and allow yourself to feel that and not have to get rid of it. By giving it a place and holding it in our heart, we start to transform it, and we have a little bit more freedom and a little bit, maybe a lot more breath. What are some other things? I can't remember some other things that I had said to you that I would recommend, but those are the two main things that I work with people on a regular basis, especially at the beginning of working with somebody.
What do you find that's most common with women that you work with? What are some of the things that you work with women as far as either their spirituality, their health and wellness? What are some of the most common things for women?
They focus on others first, not themselves, right? They think that it's selfish to be self-focused.
Yes.
And self-focus and selfish are different. Selfish is when we're doing something at the expense of somebody else.
Right.
And self-focused gives us nourishment and gives us more energy and helps us to heal and feel better. And then we really have the energy to be with somebody else.
Yeah.
And really take care.
Exactly. And I'm a big proponent of, self-love. Self-love, I believe, is the path to healing. I think one of the things that I've realized as a woman is when I was going through my journey was that I really didn't love myself. I really didn't know who I was enough to love myself. And once I started loving who I am, flaws and all, then embracing that and not judging myself, then I started, healing, a little bit quicker, but definitely on that path to healing. So do you share with women about not just, self-care, but self-awareness, mindfulness?
Oh, completely. I mean, my work is all about waking up. Waking up, becoming the true self. You have to really own the different parts of yourselves and be kind to yourself. Because if you're not kind to yourself, it's a big problem. Yeah. So the self-judgment, we all have it. You just need to own it. The self-criticism, we all have it. You just need to own it. And the more you own that you have these things, judgment, we all are judgmental. Just own it. Hatred, I have a whole chapter. We'll talk about my book.
We're going to talk about your book.
I have a whole chapter in my book about hatred. If you don't own your hatred, we all hate, even if it's irrational. We have to own our stuff in order to be kind, compassionate human beings.
And, sometimes, people put on those rose-colored glasses and everything is positive. Everything is just, they almost feel like they can't even think about the negative or the bad or the hatred, but those are parts of who we are too. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So that is part of our healing process, is to embrace those parts of us that, that we don't feel, we have that capability to say to ourselves, hey, yes, I'm angry. Yes, I don't like myself, or I don't feel like myself today. But those are the things that allow us to grow from where we were before to where we are now.
We can't change unless we own where we're at.
Exactly.
It really makes a difference.
I know. And that is totally, we have to know where we came from, right? Before we go to where we need to be, which is exactly what you mentioned many, many times.
Yeah, it helps to remember our story and then transform the story. It's not about blaming our parents, it's about knowing our lineage, knowing what happened, knowing how people suffered, knowing our own difficulties and our own suffering, which you and I certainly know about and talked a lot about over the years. And then we give it its rightful place in our heart, and then we can move on. But
Yeah.
it's not like forcing ourselves to move on. It's not getting rid of it. It's transforming it.
And I think that's challenging for a lot of people to embrace their past and embrace what their history is, their lineage, ancestry, generational, patterns and so forth, and let it go or transform. I think that's part of the journey, but also it can be challenging for some people. Yes.
Oh, it could be very challenging. Yeah. And just by knowing that it's challenging is also a step in the right direction. Yes, I love these people. No, I don't love these people. And we continue from there. And whatever it is, or this is how I was brought up and I can't stand it. This is how I was brought up and I love it. And, how do you want to be different now? How do you want to live in the world? What's authentic? What's not authentic? These are all the things that we want to take a look at so we could have more breath and more inner peace.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. Now here's where I want to share what you're about is you have accomplished and completed writing your book. Why don't you share with everyone what your book is about?
Okay, so here's my book. I don't know if you could see it.
A little bit closer. Actually, yeah. Nope, go back a little bit farther. There it is. There it is. How okay. I Think I Should Be is BS. Now, how did you come up with that title?
Okay, so How I Think is BS. So there's a little bit of a story.
Okay.
So here I am, a therapist for over 45 years, right? So every title that a therapist would want to use, like becoming, being myself, well, becoming, Michelle Obama took that. I can't compete with Michelle Obama. Right? No. Or becoming myself. Viola Davis wrote that. Right? So then I was writing all different kinds of names of titles. Can't remember all of them, but about becoming the true self, discovering who I am, and so on. And I want you to know, if you go on bookshop.org or bookshop.com, you could see all the books on Amazon, on Barnes & Noble. I checked all of them out, and all the therapists have written all those titles. So it's like, oh, I can't use that title. I can't use that title. I can't use that title. And then I was talking to one of my mentors one day, and I was saying how the way I look at forgiveness is very different than a lot of therapists. A lot of therapists say that you have to forgive an abuser in order to make progress. And I say, well, you don't have to forgive your abuser. You have to forgive yourself for being vulnerable, for all the self-judgment you do to yourself. Maybe in time you'll forgive an abuser, but you have to forgive yourself. And at least that's having the energy of forgiveness living inside of you, and more kindness and compassion. So I said, how I think I should be is bullshit. So she said,
that's
what
it.
do you think about that title?
I love it. I love it. I think that's a great, great title, because again, we kind of see ourselves through other people's eyes sometimes. And also what we think of ourselves, who do we think we are? Like, basically. So tell us about the book. What led you to, first of all, writing the book? Was it just time? You decided it was time for you to do this? Is it a memoir?
Yes, it's a memoir. So I've been a healing teacher for a very long time, and a therapist for even longer than that. And I always felt like I had something to share. Now, if you look at all the books written on meditation and psychotherapy, back in the day, they were all written by men. And it's like, I need to write my book. So, so in the 90s, I wanted to write a book. What's with all this new age stuff?
Right.
So I started to write, and then that was that. Didn't do much with that. I put some stuff on the computer. It was the early days of using computers, so I put some stuff on the computer. Then going forward, I said, oh, I'll write a book about the simple truths. So I would write stuff down every once in a while. And then I'm in my 60s. And
Yes.
it's like, okay, I need to share. So many people have said, where's your book already? So many people take notes in sessions that I've given. Of course, they take notes in when I'm doing a class because they're there to learn certain things. So I said, okay, I have to do it. I have to do it. So I finally sat down right before the pandemic began and I started to write it. And it took a lot of work because the first draft is not so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just not so good. So I kept cycling around, just like healing, cycling around and going deeper and going deeper. You don't need to know my mother did this, my father did this, my brother did this, I did this. You don't need to know all those little nitty gritties, but I would talk about lineage in it and how it affected me and how it affects everybody else. I talked about prayer. Why bother praying? I talked about why bother waking up. I talked about intuition. I talked about hatred. I talked about aggression. I talked about kindness. But of course, everybody loves the chapter, drugs, what did I call it? Drug, sex, rock and roll, and gurus.
Yeah. Right. That's a great chapter. That's a great
So,
subtitle.
yeah.
Let's talk about what you said about why do we need to pray? What's about prayer? Why did
So
you write that?
first of all, prayer, they've done a lot of research on prayer, by the way. And Larry Dossey did a lot of research. And they have found that research, that prayer can really be transmitted and received by a person, whether they're conscious or not. So like somebody in a coma can benefit from prayer and so on. So I always prayed. I did my own little prayer. And I was very innocent and I would pray for this or I pray for that and, very sweet, innocent prayers. But now I do prayers that are more about healing myself, being present in the moment, dealing with a difficult situation. It's just something that I do. I pray for others a lot. But I pray for myself as well. And
Yes.
I say it's a way to access not just my little self, my unhealed self that is longing for something more, but to also access my higher self, my spiritual self, and all the different parts of me get to have a voice from pain, suffering to say, oh, okay, so this is good today. That's good. And I end up with a lot of gratitude.
Yes. Yes. I absolutely believe in prayer. I think for me personally, prayer is a connection to source, connection to a source or a higher being. But also prayer can be a meditation in a way as well, because it is, for me, repeating mantras is a prayer for me, and affirmations. I believe in affirmations. I believe in repeating things over and over again. But I recall one of my stories when I was in the hospital. They had told me that if I had one more surgery, I wasn't going to make it. So the nurse came in and saw me crying. I was in ICU, and she said, "What's wrong?" And she just, looked at me, and I just said, I'm scared. I don't want to die. I'm really, really scared. I'm crying. And all she said was, have faith. All she said was have faith. So at that moment, I decided to pray. And I said, dear God, universe, spirit, if you help me live, if you just help me live another day, I will do whatever it takes. I will give back. I will serve. I just want to live. And so obviously the next morning I passed gas, which was a good sign. They sent me up to they sent me up to a regular room. As they were rolling me or wheeling me to the room, I said to the head nurse, please tell the nurse in my room last night, thank you. And the head nurse said, honey, we don't have a nurse by that name. And I'm like, yes, you do. Her name is so-and-so. This is what she looked like. She was in my room. And she goes, no, we don't have a nurse by that name. She's the head nurse. She would know. So I just said, okay, whoever this angel was in my room, I prayed, and whether I subconsciously or consciously wanted this person, this angel was in my room, and I prayed. And so
Yes.
for me, prayer was, I was in a desperate state.
Yes.
But I believe my prayer was answered in that moment.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And you
definitely.
got, well, your prayer that you didn't know you had was answered before that.
Before,
When you showed
yes,
up. Yeah.
exactly. I did not even know before that it was already answered. So yeah, absolutely right. So this is so exciting because I'm also in the beginning stages of writing my book. So what were some of the steps? I know it took, how long did it take you actually to go from beginning to end?
With all the editing, 3 years.
3 years. Okay.
But I have to say, I work full time
Yes.
and I have family.
Right.
And so that's why it took so long. I think it takes some people less time. I watched a lot of documentaries about writers, and I would sit there and I'd say, like Margaret Atwood, that's what she does. She's a writer all day long.
Yeah.
So it was mostly on my weekends. And then sometimes I would resist on my weekends. I wanted to play, I have not read a novel. I have a whole shelf over there of books ready for me to read this summer. So, a lot of them.
So, what were the lessons you learned about yourself while you were writing this book, or now after you had written the book? What lessons did you learn?
So, well, I could do it. I could do it.
Yes.
I've always known that I'm somebody who can show up.
Mm.
And I've also known that I'm somebody who likes to play and have fun and enjoy. So there was that kind of a dance that I was involved with. I want to play, I want to sit down and write. It was a little bit easier in the colder months. I have a fireplace in the living room. I would sit by the fireplace, and that was always good and helpful. I learned, I really shared my truth. So I was very vulnerable, very open, and sometimes I would relive something that I had worked on therapy. I had prayed about, I'd had done spiritual healing about, and then I would have this like real body experience, especially about this girl who lived across the hall from me freshman year who ended up being murdered.
Oh,
And
wow.
I just had this whole reaction. So the vulnerability really touched me. Really becoming aware of how much I've really done and how much I've grown and how much I've changed, and being honest and sharing with people. You don't start here. I started with being frightened and split and very powerful, and how to be a powerful woman without being an obnoxious woman. Okay, sometimes I might be a bitch, but most of the time I'm not. Most of the time I'm generous and kind and open-hearted. So it was just quite an experience. And I felt like, having taught so much over the years, that I could really help people and say, hey, it takes time. It's not easy.
Right. And not to be so hard on ourselves. I think, women are the worst critics. We are our worst critics. And we self-judge. I mean, the negative self-talk that we say to ourselves on a daily basis is, remarkable, right?
Right. So all those shoulds are stuff that's been passed down to us a couple of ways. One, through our parents, one through our lineage, if we had grandparents or whoever the primary caretakers were. It's passed down through the culture.
Yes.
Many people have different cultures. There's through the religion.
Right. Right.
Thinking this is what a woman should be. This is how a mother should be. This is how I should. So just
that's why your title is so perfect. How I think I should be is BS.
That's right.
Yeah. Because of exactly all the things that you said, the preconceptions that have been ingrained in our minds have transformed into our life, our everyday life, how we are living. And then once you realize it, like you're awakened, right? You're reawakened, you're awakened, your eyes are open, and you're like, wow, okay, I should be living for me. This is what my soul says I get to be and who I get to be. And I think you've learned that pretty much, through your teachings, through your education, through everything that you've worked with, not only with yourself, but with other people. I mean, I know I learn through my clients. I learn through other people.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
If we can't learn from each other, then we're screwed,
Exactly. And that's why I love you. I mean, what I love about you is you are direct and honest, and you basically, you don't sugarcoat anything, but you do it with love and compassion. You do it with a healing heart. And yes, sometimes we just need the honest truth. We need someone to say, this is the way it is. This is how it is. I mean, and that's what I love and admire about you is your honesty, your forthright, and everyone should be, but you have that way of, being, there's no BS with you. That's exactly what it is.
There's no BS, but I could say this. One of my clients recently said this, survivor of different types of abuse. I did not push her. Mm-hmm. Working with her for over 10 years. So I might say that's bullshit, that's bullshit, that's bullshit, mm-hmm. and maybe connect it to the history for a second, but right. I never pushed her into any of that because, and I might have done that when I was a younger therapist, but not anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm just clearly amazed at, first of all, congratulations on writing your book. I'm excited for my transformation as well during this process, because hearing from you and learning from you, I'm sure it's going to be an extremely interesting journey through the writing process itself.
Yeah.
So where can we find you? Oh, first of all, what are your offerings, and then where can we find you? So what are your offerings and services?
Okay. So I have a website, Marder-Mirman.com. And everything is on there. So the book can be ordered, because not every bookstore is going to carry my book. They don't know who I am. So it could be ordered in any bookstore in the United States. You could get it on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and so on. The course I'm teaching a 6-week course starting May 2nd. I don't know if this is going to air by then.
It may or may not.
No, it may not. You might have to cut that part out, but
okay.
But anyway,
they can still go to your website.
They could go to my website, yeah, and get that information. And if it's too late for this course, I'll do it again after I move into the city. And what else? The book I told you about, and the website. The website has all the information about what I'm doing. And the reason why I'm also doing the groups is because, since I'm older, I'm not working as much with individual clients. So this way I could work with different groups.
Which is great. So you can work with more people at once.
Yeah, touch more people. Yeah.
And we're going to put all of Eileen's information on the bottom of the her interview, so you can find where she is on social media, her website, and everything else that she's offering. And so I'm going to leave the floor to you. What else would you like to say to women and women's wellness?
That's a good question. Focus on yourself. And if you have difficulty focusing on yourself, allow yourself to be honest and say, oh, I'm afraid to focus on myself, and live with that. And just try to become aware of what's stopping you from being authentic, because when you're not authentic, you're not going to be as happy. And being happier makes a whole lot of a difference. And that doesn't mean that you get rid of difficulty. It doesn't mean you get rid of your history that might have been difficult. And it doesn't mean that the politics aren't still insane, but it just means that you can have some more inner peace. Something like that, I would say.
That is wonderful. I think that's the best advice for women. You are a wealth of information, knowledge, and experience. And I'm so grateful for having you here at Women's Wellness That Works.
Thank you.
I'm excited about your book. I'm excited for others to read about your book. And How I Think I Should Be is BS, available everywhere. We're going to put all the links underneath this interview, and you can find her on her website. And your website again is?
EileenMarder-Mirman.com.
Okay, great. We will.
But you might have to spell it out for the people.
We will. We're going to spell it out to everyone. We'll definitely do that. Well, thank you so much for being here, Eileen. I appreciate you so much. And I hope to come and see you soon in New York and Manhattan when you're all settled in.
Yeah, we'll have to go to a different restaurant this time.
Yes, we will. Well, thank you, ladies, for watching. And remember, every woman has her story. What's your story? Until next time, have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.